Dude, I can't wait for Blade Week.
Yeah, it's gonna be great, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of Blade, like, I always think of, remember how I used to read Ain't It Cool News, like, all the time back in the day?
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that.
When Blade 2 came out, Harry Knowles wrote this insane, like, ridiculous review of Blade 2. You gotta check it. Like,
Really?
You have to see it to believe it. It's
Is
like,
it still up on the website, you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go read that, man.
Cool, man.
Hopefully, Blade's good still. So
We'll find out.
I guess I'll see you, man.
See ya.
Okay, I guess it's time to check out that review now. Let's see here. Damn, this is fucking weird. What the fuck? Dude, why? I don't get this shit. Shit! Texas Chainsaw Massacre birthday party. Blade 2! Wet chin thigh splitter. I mean, Mike here. Hi, Grandma. Yes, Bruno has returned. Okay, Mike. This is your annual performance review. Now, I've noticed a real lack of focus in your work. Are you okay? It's a damn review. I don't understand. I can't stop thinking about it. Why did he do it like that? Why did he write it? Enough with the review talk. It's all you ever talk about anymore. Exactly. I'm putting you on unpaid leave, Mike. When you come back, you better forgotten about that damn review and start doing your work, or you're fired. I'm sorry, sir. I'll do my best.
You've got mail.
Hey, Matt.
Mike, did you hear amazing news? They just announced Austin Powers 4, Live and Let Shag. Can you believe it? Amazing. But what's even better? The main villain is named Octowussy, and he's going to be played by Tig. Your dream has finally come true, man. After all these years.
Okay, well, I'm going to cut you off. That's cool and everything. I gotta go.
If there is a hell, I'm sure this is how it smells. This is where a dream, but no, it isn't.
It's the beginning of Buddy Shotz 162. I don't really have a rhyme for that, but it's Blade Week.
1 and Blade 2.
How about you? Yeah.
Rhyme 2 with 2 is always really awesome.
I'm like Monday, Saturday. So I think before we get too far into this, we've already started for like 5 seconds. So before we get too far into this, I want to like talk about who Harry Knowles is and ain't it cool news real quick because
anyone under the age of 16
if anybody
has no
watches I know we do a ton of skits where people are like, what the fuck is this? What are they talking about? But this is like what the fuck is, like who is Harry Knowles and what was Ain't It Cool News? And no one better to talk about it than me, than you, the person that introduced me to it, and you used to go on there religiously, so
I don't know who he is.
Do you?
Yeah, Ain't It Cool News was like the first big movie news site on the internet.
But they didn't just do news, they did like reviews too.
Yeah,
so they
reviews
were kinda
and like set visits, and it was just all
Siskel
things
and Ebert,
movies.
if they had like you said, like news and
Yeah. And Harry Knowles was the founder and like main writer on the website, and he became super famous as like the biggest movie nerd in the world.
Right.
And he got so huge, I found out they would even like bring him out to Hollywood to sit in and like give advice on like how to make movies like appeal to nerds and stuff. Like,
right.
He was huge. And then a few years back, he kind of got canceled. and then the website kind of went away. But at that point, there were millions of websites just like it. So
Yeah.
but most notably,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
he wrote an infamous review for Blade 2 that Mike I introduced to Mike, and I probably shouldn't have because he became obsessed with it. It's so weird. It's like once you read it, you'll never forget it.
So like,
it's the most unnecessary.
I don't bring it up like all the time. It's not like I'm obsessed with it, but like it. I agree with you where it's. Well, you wrote the fucking skit at the beginning, so some could say you're obsessed with it by writing that skit. I find out though that whenever there's something that needs to be done skit-wise on the podcast, and it's something that's a little too across the line, I'll never say no to it, so I'll end up doing it.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. But no, I do think it's something to be studied. Like it's like I can't believe this was not only thought up but put. It's like someone at their like most unchucked hubris to be able to just write a review that is so out of left field.
Mm-hmm. I really liked reading his reviews back in the day because he was just like so enthusiastic about movies, like, and it was like real.
Yeah.
But this was like he just went totally out of control with the Blade 2.
There's a couple reviews like that I've seen on that site where it's like towards certain points it's like like this one is just super sexual and weird, but there are other ones that are like just kind of like, it's like they're not really reviews, they're just kind of like, I don't know, almost like essays about stuff, which is, I mean, I guess, I don't know. But like you said, like it's enthusiastic. It's just, this is like the only other thing I really remember about Harry Knowles that we talk about every once in a while is his constant history revision of how when he was a kid the cast of Texas Chainsaw Massacre came to his fucking like first birthday party or some shit, and he remembered it.
He always has to be the first to know about
Right.
anything and everything.
And he
including
like
even when he was a baby,
he cut the cake or whatever, and it was like
the story got more elaborate. Each time he told it,
and like his biggest critics were his fans.
Oh yeah,
I always thought that was so weird when I went on that website.
That was the other thing that was kind of like famous about that website. Even I think from the beginning, like the comments section was the dregs of the internet, like the worst. It was like Reddit before Reddit.
Yeah, they always.
But their whole purpose was just to make fun of Harry Knowles.
Of the guy that they were on the site for.
It's a weird
dichotomy.
Weird thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
it was very weird because I never really went on there all that much. He would send me like an article or be like, dude, I saw this or whatever, and I always, it's always cool to hear like news and stuff like that. I mean, now it's not really as special because news gets broken all the time, and who knows if something's even going to happen. I mean, it's always been like that, but still, it was like, this was like the original nerd news. Like, holy crap. But like, yeah, just reading those comments for anything, like even if it was like allowed to review, it was always like, there was at least like 20 comments that were like, you're a fat piece of crap. And I'm like, okay, like that has nothing to do with his review, but okay. But like you said, it was like the dregs of the internet, people that loved to shit on Harry Knowles to make themselves feel better. Yeah, for me, that will always be linked with Blade, and more so also like Del Toro, because in the review he states that him and Del Toro are brothers because Del Toro's wife said they were, or their dads or something, and I was like, it's like the kind of weird stuff that I'm like, huh?
Yeah, and also knowing what I know about Guillermo del Toro, he probably didn't appreciate that review, like how disgusting it was, because he's like a polite gentleman, you know? So that's just a weird thing.
Yeah. It probably also set his career back like 50 years. He didn't get an Oscar till fucking like In the Shape of Water, thanks to Harry Knowles.
And studio tampering with Mimic. Is that the Weinsteins?
Probably.
Anyways, that's a story for another day.
That'll be another episode.
The one last weird thing about Harry Knowles is the time he inexplicably was on the bonus features for Reservoir Dogs. giving
told me
interviews,
about
and
this.
he was doing a Quentin Tarantino impression for some reason.
Yeah, he was being
why is he
really
doing that?
weird about it. It's like...
Why? I still don't understand.
Harry Knowles reminds me of like somebody that like was like a fan of wrestling, and he somehow became like friends with a lot of wrestlers and thought that he was then a wrestler. Like Harry Knowles, I think he thought he was a movie star, and so he had like the right to like crap on all these other people. I mean, not like you have to be. I'm like you have to be a movie star to, But it's like, it was just like, we're friends. And it's like, I'm sure most of those people were like, just tolerated him because he was just so obnoxious. But it goes back to, another time when, you could go on a website and actually truly find something that was, this is breaking news. Because now it's like, one person will find it, post it to Twitter or Reddit or someplace, and then it, like, every news site spreads it in like half a second. They like have a template where they just plug it in and it's like posted, and like you can find it from like 50th copy of the original source, and it's just like, but yeah,
different times.
So I thought I wanted to bring him up, not to make fun of him, but more so to like around this time.
That's the reason we're doing this episode. I deeply believe that.
Well, I actually didn't even think about Harry Knowles and like when picking this, but of course as soon as I thought Blade 2, I thought, okay, great, well, now we're gonna have to talk about Harry Knowles, because for us it's like linked forever. For better or worse, Blade 2 is linked with Harry Knowles' fucking review. So yeah, I guess let's move on from Harry Knowles and onto the Harry Poles. So
Wait,
okay,
something's not right for Blade Week. Let's do this.
Your fucking
grandpa sunglasses.
Yeah, they're not even close to the cool Blade ones. You look like
The
Stevie
opposite of
Wonder
cool.
or something. Also, they're like huge
to fit over my giant glasses.
Dude, they're fucking huge.
But seriously, I do have a surprise before we talk about
Oh
Blade.
shit, okay.
Because
you're like, put a gun to my head. I'm like, ah, shit.
I wrote a little song in honor of Blade.
Oh shit. A little song? Should I sing this at the end?
If you want to. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Mr. Blade, all those vampires don't seem so far away. Now I'm so glad you're here to slay. Oh, I believe in Mr. Blade. Suddenly, Blade is half man, half vampire, you see. Deacon Frost's shadow just flew over me. Oh, Mr. Blade kills suddenly. Why he talks so low, I don't know, he wouldn't say. Whistler's hair is long, that's my song for Mr. Blade. Thank you.
That was awesome. You need to start
So
doing that
stupid.
every episode now.
Some of my greatest
So
writing.
before we even go any further, what the fuck brought that on?
I just thought it'd be funny.
So you just randomly wrote a song you had no idea, or what? Like what?
I just thought it'd be funny.
What's the process? Were you just kind of watching the movie and then you were like,
I'm
thinking
trying
of
to
Beatles or whatever?
I'm trying to bring some surprises to the
okay.
episode, such as my 50-second scream,
Well,
the infamous.
I appreciate it.
Really, just to try to make you laugh. So that's the reason.
I like it a lot. I was just like, at first I was like, sounds familiar, and then I was just like, wait a minute. So what's that based off of? What's that song? Like, is that Beatles maybe? Or, I think
yeah.
that's
Yesterday by Mr. McCartney.
oh.
But those are the original lyrics that he wrote about.
Yeah, and then
I found them.
they changed them because they didn't want to get copyrighted. Yeah, I had a feeling. Which would you like more, that one or Blackbird?
Both good. I'll top that with Bluebird from Wings.
I have a controversial, maybe it's not controversial, but I absolutely do not like Blackbird at all.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like that song.
How
It's
come?
so overplayed.
So is Yesterday, the most overplayed song of all time.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of either one of them, honestly.
you should hear Bluebird. Maybe it'll change your mind.
Bluebird
on Paul
singing
McCartney,
in the dead of
Bird
Bluebird
songs.
singing in the dead of day. Take these fixed wings and learn to slay, Mr. Blade. Whistler's hair is long.
I probably could have put a little more into that lyric. Whistler's hair is long. One of the dumbest things I wrote, much less sang.
I think that's hilarious, but it's also one of those things where, like, man, that's like quality work that, well, we could have used for the fucking end.
Then it wouldn't have been a surprise.
That's true. That's what I was saying to myself, though. I'd rather it be a surprise.
Should we get into Blade?
You mean Mr. Blade? Mr. Blade. Do you think anybody has ever called him Mr. Blade?
I don't know.
Maybe if they were, like, scared they were going to be killed? Like, Mr. Blade,
Please,
well,
Mr. Blade.
It's also, like, they would have to know his name. Like, Mr. Blade, don't fucking kill me. It's like, okay. But yeah, into the poll. We'll get this over with real quick here. Both Blade and Blade 2, we got a slight swing of yes for 60 and no for 40. So more people have seen Blade and Blade 2 than they have not.
Cool.
Well, that voted not. I'm like, everyone's seen it. It's international.
It has no cultural impact.
Yeah. Greatest film of all time. Okay, so yeah. Let's get into the first film, Blade. Both these films were, well, they star Wesley Snipes, and they were both written by
David S. Goyer.
Yeah. Both him, yeah. He was on the commentary for the second one. Both of them, they did it together, and then in the first one, it's like the commentary is like a chop up fest. So I wrote down notes for those. We'll go over those later. But yeah, I guess what so when Blade first came out, what was like your whole thing with Blade? I'm like, what was your thing with Blade? Come on.
I don't know. I missed it when it came out in theaters. I didn't see it, and then I think we rented it probably on a Friday night on tape or something on tape, and watched it. And I thought that's pretty good. Yeah. And then I kind of forgot about it and moved on. Yeah. So that's, I don't know. I love Wesley Snipes, but for whatever reason,
it just kind of like stuck under the radar.
Yeah.
Radar.
There were a couple memorable things about it that like I never forgot, like that super fat blob vampire that disturbed me back in the day, and it disturbed me again watching it now. How about you?
I think I didn't see it in theater. I remember seeing the second one in theaters, but like the first one, it was one of those ones that as well, like I rented it because I was like, oh, Spider-Man, you know, and stuff like that. But like, it's funny because at the time I didn't even know Blade was like a Marvel character, and so like when I saw the film, it wasn't until like later that I found out, like, oh, because it's not like now when you go see a film and they're blasting it from the rooftops, and before you even see the film, it's like they show like the Marvel logo and like 50 fucking little things, you know, like, we want you to know this is a Marvel character, and it's just like, okay. But like when I saw the film, I just was watching it, you know, because it was about a guy that was like a vampire hunter that was also like a vampire, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. It reminded me a lot of like, you know, previous vampire hunters and stuff, like you know, like Alucard or like Vampire Hunter D, stuff like that, which this might have come out before that anyway, but not the original. But like I remember really liking it and being like, oh man, hopefully they make a sequel, and they did. But like, it was funny, we both had that where like we didn't see it in theaters, and I would say that probably most people that saw Blade for the first time, at least like that we know, like I didn't know anybody. I mean, obviously it did, you know, numbers because people were like, but it might have also, this, you know, back in the day, home video did a lot, so it could have also done that. But one of the things that they were talking about, I didn't write this down, but I just remembered, was that like people were like, you know, how was it, you know, to make Blade 2, were you nervous and stuff? And Wesley Snipes was like, nervous, like we didn't even know that the first one was even going to do, like there was no indication, because like it's not like, you know, they were acting like the people that asked them, like the press act like, you know, this was like a huge thing that they knew was going to be a hit, and he was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't even know who Blade was before he made the film. So yeah, but yeah, it was one of those back when like rentals was like a big deal and stuff, and you know, a lot of movies got like new life or like made a ton of money, even more so than in the theaters, off of rentals sometimes, and like DVD sales.
I mean, your Austin Powers is a great example. It was a
Right.
bomb when it came out in theaters and became huge on VHS and DVD.
Yeah, I saw after I think you showed me it on DVD, I became obsessed and watched. I was like, I saw the second and third one in theaters.
Everyone did. They were massive. And that's the
Yeah.
one IP that Hollywood chooses not to make money on.
The internet property, the IP, my IP address. I'm like, my physical IP addresses. So, of course, one thing that I totally remember from this film was, of course, around this time, this was like a huge thing, was like techno and stuff, and the rave in this film.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Such a thing of its time.
Yes. Because, you know, techno's still around, but it's not like, you know, at that time it was
totally
like
different.
fucking
Like,
everywhere.
Electronic music has changed so much since the late 90s,
Right.
early 2000s.
It's not just like, like pretty simplistic. Yeah. Take a song and you feed it. But like, this was like, kind of like, the techno movement was what, like, years later, dubstep eventually like was everywhere, and now it's nowhere.
Yeah, that was a nice little fad.
Right. But yeah.
Yeah, that's one criticism I have is, like, I was thinking about other superhero movies, like Batman, Spider-Man, like, they all have iconic scores.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's Blade's iconic theme, you know?
Yeah.
I guess it's just, like, generic techno, but that's...
Yeah. That
The
was
scores were highly
I think that's
lacking
one
for these
thing that they
movies.
kind of like talk about in the second
Oh,
one.
really?
On the commentary.
Interesting.
Blade, or not Blade. Well, it is Blade. Wesley Snipes gave a ton of music that he wanted to be used in the second one, and they totally ignored it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was a studio decision, and like nobody had any influence over that. Like Del Toro didn't have any influence.
Oh,
and
man,
neither
that
did-
sucks.
Yeah. So it was like, in the first one, it was more so they were just making it because they, you know, but like the sequel, he was like, I wanted it to be more like funky and like, you know, I was like, this sounds cool, you know, this is going to be awesome, and the idea and stuff, but it's like they're like, he's like, what music did you like in this film? He's like, well, the music I gave them, but they didn't fucking use it. He's like, they threw it all away. I was like, well, so I think I agree. I think that's one of those things where like, I think the rave song is sadly the one thing in this movie that like that I remembered the most, but remembered is like more, it's just generic. It's like bang, dang, 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 and it's like that's the whole song. It's like techno is so forgettable in this day and age. Like back then, like most of it was like literally someone did like 1 second of work and then just repeated it and left. It was like cool.
The original AI.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think I enjoyed learning about like how these movies were made so much, like probably more than the movies themselves, because like there were lots of challenges and they had to like lots of, I won't say things went wrong, but they faced lots of obstacles and had to make like tons of creative decisions for better or worse.
Yeah.
And I was interested to learn like how much Wesley Snipes was into like behind the scenes of this movie, because
he was
a producer.
Yeah.
Like, he was all over everything, and it sounds like maybe he was challenging to work with, but I think everyone seemed to agree, like, his ideas were usually for the best.
Yeah, everybody that, like, even if there was issues, you know, but it's also, like, if you're an actor and a producer, it's one of those things where, like, it sounds like he wanted to get the best, you know, for the movie and stuff, but it's like he said this was like the first time he had ever done producing on a film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was being a prima donna or anything like that. He just wanted,
he also brought
lots of ideas
like
and
previous like movie expertise for like action.
Yeah.
Because he did like all not all of his stunts, but like a lot of them and stuff like that. And he you know, he brought that side to it as well and stuff. And like you said, a lot of
He
times...
was just coming off playing the iconic character Bobby Rayburn in The Fan.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Probably the character that was like the least iconic in that film, sadly. Because he was a normal guy. But like... in like this film, it was one of those things, or in these films, it was one of those things where like you said, like everybody, like, because when I was listening to the commentary, it's like everybody that would say anything like, yeah, this was Wesley's idea, you know, and this, you know, we had to reshoot the film scenes, you know, for like the fights, because some of the stuff he was like, this isn't gonna work and stuff. This is like, you know, the flow of it. Like, he's a man after my own heart. Like, he's like, the action, if it doesn't flow, it's like not worth shit. Yeah. And like, it doesn't have emotion. I'm like, who cares? So like, I was watching it and I was just like, yeah, I'm totally down with that, because, you know, they were like, yeah, you know, it was kind of a pain in the ass, but he was right. Yeah. And it was just like, you have to have somebody on set. And I think if it had just been some random person, it wouldn't have been as, you know, like, I don't think there would have been really as much of an issue. But, like, since it's also an actor, like, yeah, it can come off like you said, like, oh, is he being, like, a prima donna? But it's not really, because he's not like Seagal, where he's like, I can't be hurt. Like, Blade gets his ass fucking destroyed in both these films. Like, you know, he gets fucking crucified and shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. But, you know...
It was giving me anxiety, though, when they were like, he was suggesting, like, the camera was in the wrong spot, or like, Blade wouldn't, he would like, they'd be like, all right, action, and he'd be like, Blade wouldn't do this. It's like, oh, shit, dude. Maybe you don't wait till, like, you're on set to make these decisions, but I mean, hey.
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, depending on, you know, with stuff we've done, you can think of something, and then, like, you do it, and then you look at it, and you're like, this isn't gonna work. This looks like shit.
Yeah, totally.
That's something that, like, they were talking about too, where it's just like, you know, you can write something on page and then, like, it gets on to filming it and it's just like, no, this ain't gonna work. So, but at the rave, did you know the guy that, like, got brought there kind of, like, had he looked like he was like Joey Pants in it with his backwards newsy cap. I was like, oh my god. That was another thing.
I would never wear that.
That was like a thing at the time. I think you and a couple other people I knew did that. Which I'm not crapping on it. I'm just saying, you know.
It was the 90s, dude.
It was a thing of its time, for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The guy kept going, fuck, at the rave. Fuck! Fuck! I'm like, okay.
Such profanity.
And then a guy says, no, no, no.
Yeah, the rave's the other, like unforgettable scene.
Yeah, it's very iconic for the first movie, for sure, because
it's probably the coolest part of the whole movie for me.
I don't think
so. It's quite striking.
It is striking, but it's definitely not like the coolest part for me. Like, because it all sucked. I think it's just one part of this first film that like definitely. You have all these people covered in blood, and when Blade shows up for the first time, he shows up completely unsullied of, like, blood, and it's like people are, like, shocked, you know, like, they know who he is and stuff, and it's just like, what a way to introduce a character, man. Like, I feel like, you know, this movie, you know, it's a movie that goes out of its way to treat the main character and, like, the world in a way that is unique enough to set it apart from, like, other stuff in the genre. So, like, even though, like, technically these movies would be in the same, like Blade would be in the same universe as, like, Spider-Man, there's no way that you could be like, you know, these were made by the same people. Yeah. So, like, which is, like, unheard of now, because whenever you would watch anything that they put out by that studio, it's very much the same and stuff. Like, if they were to make, like, I know they're making another Blade, but it's like, if they were to make a Blade now, like, I don't know how...
They're making another Blade?
Yeah.
With Wesley Snipes?
No.
What?
They're rebooting it.
Well, he could still do it.
Well, he's not gonna.
Why not?
Well, they didn't ask him. Sadly. Weak. But, like, they also made a Blade TV series, I found out after watching this, yeah. That I don't know how long it ran for, but anyway, like, it's one of those things where, like, I would be worried about whether or not they would have like the balls to pull the horror card and stuff, because you have to have that, like, I mean, for especially if you have like vampires and stuff like that, like anything like this, like you have to have that factor.
Yeah, I appreciate that both Blade 1 and Blade 2 went hard into the violence. Like, these are crazy violent, like, graphic movies.
Yeah.
And it's all the better for it.
The second one I feel like is more like horror than the first one. But, like, they both, like you said, have, like, the violence and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This was, like, the Wild West days of, like, the Marvel films, which is probably, I think, in my opinion, the best days.
Yeah.
For, like, the films, at least.
The best days are right now.
But not to pile on that or go too far into that, but just because I think they were able to, for the most part, get away and do what they wanted to do.
Say what they want to say.
The Blade family.
Live how they want to live, slay how they want to slay.
Slay how they want to slay. The Blade family. Oh, that's some strange neighbors. It's like, man.
But I did think, I appreciate the fact that Blade's, like, an interesting character right off the bat, because during that first fight scene, he's going like, yes!
Yeah.
Like, just, like, doing weird stuff, and I was like, that's cool. I appreciate that.
Very weird, though, because, like, I feel like there's some inconsistencies, at least in this first film, because, like, I think even, like, Wesley was talking about that, how in the first film, like, once he finally drinks blood, he, like, opens up and becomes, like, more loose and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, like, he felt he was a little inconsistent in the first one with, like, doing stuff like that. Like, he's, like, I think he was saying, like, he would have gone back and been, like, done that stuff after he drank blood. Because, like, he was, like, because it's, like, he does that, but then, like, for a lot of the movie, he's pretty, like, he's pretty just, like, like, you know, like, you know, stone face and stuff. But I do like it as well. I'm not going to knock it.
Did you think... go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Did you think Christian Bale owes him money for ripping off the Blade voice for when he did Batman? It reminded me so much of what Christian Bale did, dude. It's like, dude, he just ripped off Blade. Did you think about that at all?
No, not at all. I think it's also because, like, that's just kind of Wesley Snipes.
Yeah. Pretty much everyone's just ripping off Clint Eastwood.
Right. But, like, I think one of the exceptions, or, like, one of the differences is, like, you can actually understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
So, one of my big complaints about those movies. But,
I forgot that he had the exact same haircut from Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Just not blonde. The Simon Phoenix haircut.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. It's a very iconic haircut, too. Yeah. It's like... also, like, one thing that, like, kind of... I'm sure everybody noticed this.
Everybody
that's seen this. When he has his glasses on, he's serious, but the only time he... Like, you know, emotionally wise... the only time that he actually is, like, emotional in these films is when he's, like, the glasses are off. Mm-hmm. It's like, because it's like the glasses, they're like his mask to, and I was just like, oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Whenever he puts the glasses on, for the most part in these, it's like badass time.
It's about to get real.
Yeah. This is real. So I wanted to borrow a line from you for this next note here. Because I liked it. The effects get better in the sequel, for sure.
In some ways, absolutely.
Definitely they do.
Because they're pretty rough in this.
I mean, they're not the worst, but they're also like
the first action scene in the club was awesome, except for the horrible, like, effects. It was like PS1 style when they disintegrate. It looked horrible, and it kind of ruined the action.
PS1 style. Not even close. But like him, like when he shoots vampires and they turn to skeletons, like Ash and stuff, they definitely needed to, like, that I feel like got definitely better in the sequel. Yeah. But like when he does that and they turn into skeletons, I wanted to borrow a line from you. Vampires are not real to me, therefore they don't exist. So poof, vamoose, son of a bitch.
Dude, that's... I wrote that line, not
Yeah.
Jay-Z.
Matt Z.
They're not real to me.
I went and looked for those lyrics and was like, I don't understand what this means. Like, it's like, huh? They don't exist, so poof, vamoose, son of a bitch. It's
Good
like,
stuff.
what?
Vamoose. What is he, like a cowboy in the 1800s? Like, Vamoose!
Vamoose. Poof, vamoose, son of a bitch. Or son of bitch. What does he say? He says,
Vamoose.
son of a bitch. Oh my god. Yeah, I listened to that song and it was just like, where the fuck is this part? And it's like I had to scroll through the whole thing. Oh, here it is. This is the funny part in the film where he gets shot by the cops and he says, "Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?" And I was like, is this even an outtake? Or like, what was this? So I forgot that, like, I guess the cops are on the take too, because when I watched this at first, like, I was like, they're shooting the fuck out of Blade to stop him from kidnapping somebody, like, so, like, they're gonna just kill the fucking hostage. But it was like, oh, they don't care if they kill her because they're working for the vampires. But it's like, when you watch this at first, you're like, dude, this makes no sense. They're fucking trying to kill the shit out of Blade, and they don't care if the person they're trying to save gets murdered. I'm like, huh?
Was that the car chase that was in fast motion for some inexplicable reason? You remember that? That was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It looked so stupid.
Yeah, it was weird. I was like,
it turned into like Keystone Cops for a minute. I was like, why did they do this?
It was like Monsters.
Yeah. What the hell was that?
Yeah. It was almost as bad as fucking that movie with Stallone where, like, the car chase was, like, fucking sponsored by Jet Set Radio.
Oh, yeah.
When a man approaches you with a gun, you must run.
That was so weird. I was
this
like,
fucking shit sucks. Yeah, that was just funny. I was like,
it was hilarious.
what?
It was so stupid. Yeah. What'd you think of Kristofferson as Whistler?
Abraham Whistler. Yeah, he was good.
I think we may have done more like Kristofferson movies than anyone else.
Yeah.
Blade 2, Payback, Christmas in Connecticut, and Semi-Tough.
I think this is my favorite film he's ever been in that we've watched.
Did you notice the touch, like when he was introduced, he was like pumping gas and he spills it all over the place?
Yeah, and he had like a...
That was like just such a funny little touch that blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I that was like one of my notes, was it like, I just liked him so much in this, and on both commentaries everybody had nothing but good stuff to say about him and how, you know, funny and nice he was, and, you know, just in general and stuff. And like
when he died in the first movie, it was like, it's a like genuinely devastating.
Yeah, I was like, damn it.
I know, and then they totally undo it in the sequel.
That was funny. That we'll talk about that too. That was something that I can talk about right now. That was something they talked about. They were like, we tried to kill him off in the first one and they brought him back.
It's like classic Marvel, lower the stakes.
It sounded
no
like
one can never die.
It sounded like that was not their decision.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they said that and they were just like, yeah, I don't know. That was also a weird thing because they never really explain like what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just.
I mean, they might as well have said it's his long lost twin brother.
Yeah,
like, it was
because he
15 minutes
you
into the
fucking
movie,
hear him
back.
blow his head off in the in the film.
It's like a powerful moment,
right? And then in the sequel, he's like, "I'm searching for Whistler, my teacher," and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
look in a fucking grave.
Look in a plastic bag.
Yeah, I found his corpse. Here he is. But like, this is, I think, so far out of the films we've seen, this is my favorite role of his that he's done. He's great in this. I think he's able to give more emotions in this too, which I like.
I agree.
But when I was watching this with the Vampire Council, I was like, dude, where the fuck is Tig? This is bullshit.
So that's
he was made for this fucking role.
Like, because the Deacon Frost,
the
character played by Stephen Dorff, he's a good actor, and I think he's good in this movie. But it's basically the dude from Karate Kid 3.
Yeah.
What's his name? I can't think of it. Terry Silver.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Terry Silver. Just like the bratty rich guy who wants
Yeah.
to take down the system, you know. But I couldn't agree more. Like, he would have been way better in this than even John Carpenter's Vampires. You know what I mean?
Shocking. The fucking role he was meant to not speak in.
Right. He
Um,
would have been perfect for this.
yeah, like, I almost think that, like, I mean, he would have been okay even if he was just, like, even if they just cast him as one of the side guys. I mean, I'd rather have him as in a main part, but, like, there was a guy on that council that had a ponytail, and I was like, come on, it's fucking right there. Like, give me a break.
Dude, that's hilarious.
And, like, I like the guy that, like, Deacon Frost, like,
Stephen Dorff.
yeah, I liked him. He was fine. He was almost kind of like a pre-Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
But, like, the guy that he, like, fights the whole movie, like, he's a good... I like him, too. But, like, I felt like he kind of gave Deacon Frost, like, too much leeway in this film. Like, he wasn't, like, threatening to Deacon Frost enough. And it's, like, I feel like Thomas Ian Griffith could have played either one of these characters.
Oh, yeah.
But, if he had played Deacon Frost... he could have actually had, like, a real fight scene with fucking Blade.
And that's the biggest problem in this movie. Like, I think Stephen Dorff is a little bit miscast because he's, like, so not threatening at all. Like, especially, you compare him to Wesley Snipes, like, dude, he wouldn't have a chance.
Maybe he should have been, like, still in this movie, but been, like, him and the other guy that's his, like, lackey should have been, like, the true villains pulling shit behind this stuff, and there should have been, like, a third guy that was trying to, like... screw over that one, like, German vampire dude, and that could have been Tig. And then he gets betrayed by fucking Stephen Dorff or something.
Yeah.
And like they have the fight, and like Tig like is like, you know, gets respect for Blade. Let me just rewrite the whole fucking film for no reason.
Red letter media.
Yeah.
But, like, once I learned about the original ending, I was like, oh, he wasn't supposed to be a threat to Blade.
Right.
Because he was going to turn into a demon.
Yeah.
But they failed so bad in executing that, they're like,
Yeah,
oh
it just
crap, we
looks
just
like
have to have him fight Blade now
Yeah.
and get his ass kicked.
Which also makes, I mean, that kind of makes, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they could have done more with that just in general, because, like, if he has all these powers, it was like they just kind of threw the serums into him and he died. It was, or that the serums, the whatever. And I was just like...
Who said it was serum?
Yeah. But, like, I mean, that was a satisfying... I feel like that was a very action movie satisfying way to, like, end somebody. But, like, for someone to inhabit someone that is a literal god, and for not only the god to be, like, banished and for him to die, it was like, what? It was very easy.
Yeah. That's my biggest complaint about both these movies, actually, is the villain problem. Just not good enough villains.
I think the sequel's a lot better.
I thought it was way worse, but I guess we could talk about that.
We
I had a
will.
feeling this was going to happen. Because I like Blade 1 quite a bit more than Blade 2. But there's a lot to like in both.
That's true.
Did you know that Stephen Dorff's dad is Dorff from Dorff on Golf?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus.
I had to do it.
So
So I guess we just did the new segment, Better with Tig, and we answered this question. The answer is yes, for Blade.
I don't know why that's even a segment, because
It should be.
what's the... Is there ever going to be a film where the answer is going to be no?
We're putting it to the test.
No, it's always going to be yes. So Blade resists the serum. That's like something that kind of is in this film, but isn't really explored in the sequel.
Yeah.
And inexplicably in the sequel, like, the lady is just gone. She's like, poof vamoose, son of a bitch. She gone.
I'm just thinking about Dorff on Golf. Not
Dorff
funny,
on Golf. Maybe it was based on him. It's like Vince Frost on Golf. So this part was weird because, like, the one dude that's, like, I guess, like, on the council that's, like, the German guy or whatever was just, like, he goes to Deacon Frost and he's like, why are you wasting your time on this fucking dead language? And I'm like, first of all, like, unless you have him doing something, why does it matter to you what he's doing? You guys are immortal anyway. Second, a computer is doing all the fucking work, so you could just have this running, like, 24/7 and it wouldn't matter. And then it, like, it fucking, like, comes up with something anyway. So I was just like, he's like, it's a waste of time. I'm like, how is it a waste of time to just have a computer constantly run a program when you're not using it?
You called him out.
I was just like, huh? But it was like, I mean, this was like the fucking apex hubris of fucking the Vampire Council.
Yeah.
It was like the Jedi Council. It was like, okay, dude, like...
That's why I thought Deacon Frost is a cool character, because he's like going up against like the old world
Right.
vampires.
He's like the new guard being like... I mean, that's another thing that kind of like is a clash in this first film, is it like, it's like the old... Like, you know, people that were born vampires versus people that were, like, turned into vampires. Whereas, like, the council was just, like, disgusted, or, like, they're like, this is, you know... But it's, like, it's also one of those things where, like, the council was not threatening in my eyes at all in this first film. It was, like, they never showed any, like, they never gave a fuck to, like, hurt anybody or kill anybody or make an example of anybody. They never, like, showed more strength or power than the people that were turned. So it's like
they're kind of just there.
They're just kind of like racist against people that aren't, you know, pure bloods. And it's like, okay, they're like
snobs.
Yeah, they've become complacent, but it's like, what gives them like the right for people to not like just overturn them? Yeah. Like it that was one thing that I was kind of like, like, it would have been nice to have them be maybe more, like, powerful and stuff. Show some real authority or something, because otherwise it's literally just a council of fuckers doing nothing and shitting on the younger generation.
And all those scenes are pretty boring.
Yeah, there wasn't really anybody that was, like, the most commanding person on that was, like, the one dude that they, like, got that was, like, that I actually knew who he was, like, the main guy, like, the German dude.
Oh, yeah, Udo.
Yeah, because, like, the rest of the people, it was, like, fucking extras over here. Also, like, they didn't really go to their way to, like, make any of them look unique enough. Like, I think one dude had, like, there was, like, a Asian dude that had, like, a cool, like, tattoo on his head, but that was it. Everybody else was literally just a dude.
They stepped right off the set of The Crow.
Yeah, everybody was just, like, in a suit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool.
They're like yuppie vampires.
They didn't have, like, where was the dude in the corner that was, like, a fucking weirdo that was, like, the vampire, like, on the council that was, like, the mad fucking, like, the dog on a leash kind of shit. Like,
or, like, some Nosferatus.
Yeah.
Throw some Nosferatus in there.
Just random ones. They should have got, what's his face?
Dr. Oculus.
Yeah. Got what's his face to like grab a fucking naked lady and run away with her, and like Nosferatu in Venice.
Yeah.
It's like,
did you know in the third movie he fights Dracula?
Who? Blade?
Yeah. Yes. Dracula's the main villain.
That's pretty cool.
It was. I was like, what is this, Decker versus Dracula?
Dracula actually exists in the Blade, or in the MCU, which is...
Yeah, it was like, weren't those the comics that Blade was introduced in? Yeah, I didn't know about any of that.
But then so does Santa Claus.
And Howard the Duck.
Yeah. Blade, or not Blade, fucking Dracula, Santa Claus, and Howard the Duck.
Make that MCU movie come together.
I'm like, huh? Like, when I think of, like, mystical figures that are at the height of renown, those are the three. Move over, fucking Mario and Mickey Mouse, and I guess Ronald McDonald isn't really that popular anymore. Tig! He doesn't exist. Vamoose, son of a bitch.
He's real to me?
Yeah, true. So Blade's talking about they got the obligatory scene in this first film where they talk about, like, to the audience, but it's like the new character, like, hey, this is what works on vampires, what doesn't. And there's a random marquee, and it just says 3 for $1, and I was like, 3 of what for $1? It's like not a restaurant or anything.
If you
it's
have
like,
to ask, you don't want to.
3 for $1. I'm like, huh? What does this mean? Answer me, please. I like this line. Aim for the head or heart. Anything else is your ass. It's like, dude, Wesley Snipes. I need to pick more Wesley Snipes films.
Yeah,
on
he
this
rules.
Podcast.
He's always the greatest. So we've done a few Wesley Snipes.
We have, just not enough.
Yeah.
I fucked up. I always remember this scene being kind of weird, and I don't know how you feel about it, the Yakuza bar with like the Japanese schoolgirls rapping as older men look on and smoke. It's like okay.
It was a choice.
Yeah.
I'm sure those exist.
Let's talk
Definitely
about
in the 90s.
The data watcher, the guy that was like that scared you, or
He
Pearl or
me.
whatever.
Yeah, Pearl, the human Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, it was like Batboy couldn't escape.
Yeah, dude, that effect was amazing. Like,
yeah,
that was awesome.
That was like the thing that
blew me away.
Actually, the thing that scared me the most, or not scared me the most, but kind of grossed me the most about that wasn't like it. It was that like when they burned him, I was like,
yeah, it was
this
horrifying.
is fucking gross.
He's like,
yeah,
and,
she's like, you
literally
moved. I'm
roasted.
like, why are you being mean to this person?
Yeah, like have pity.
Have pity on the city, man. It's intro.
But when that happened, all of a sudden I had a huge craving for pork rinds. I was like,
When you're hungry, you do that. You're like, I have a craving! I'm like, please, Jesus!
I got a knife and fork, and I'm like,
turn into Vince Frost. Please, God! Deliver me pork rinds!
The thing that surprised me the most watching this again this time is how many things this did before The Matrix.
Yeah.
It was like, there's lots of Matrix vibes in this, and this came
Oh,
out
yeah,
a year
for sure.
before.
This was like, yeah, for sure. This is...
Like, there's a scene where there's pretty much bullet time.
Yeah.
You know, it has super slow motion, and you see the bullets, like, flying around and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and of course, like, the techno and the leather.
One
and...
point, they go into a lobby just like the lobby scene in The Matrix.
Yep.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I didn't write it down, but I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking that, but I just forgot to write a note about it. So they have the Vampire Bible, the Book of Malgra. It's kind of weird that the vampires would call it maybe they don't call it the Vampire Bible themselves, but it contains their entire history. But like, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if they would call it the Bible, because in this universe, like, religion and artifacts have no bearing on vampires. Like, they could still be, like, they could be Hindu, they could be Christian, they could be Jewish, like, and be practicing, I guess, if they wanted to, but it wouldn't, like, have any effect on them. Like, you know, it's not like if they saw a cross and other stuff, they'd be like, yo. But I think that was something they were, you know, I heard about too. It's just like, why would it make any sense for vampires to specifically be against, like, just the cross? Like, what if they, like, you know, what if when if they lived, they were like a Buddhist or something, like, look, I'm a Buddhist. So,
One of my favorite effects are when he, like, injects the dudes with the serum and their heads
Dude.
swell up and explode.
Yeah.
I was like,
that
bravo.
reminded me of, like, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, that was a great effect.
Okay, sorry.
When they melt Udo Kier, like, they set him out in front of the sun.
Dude, that was fucking horrifying.
Because it was, like, a double kill because he totally, like, disintegrated and then he exploded. And I was like,
yeah, for
second
sure.
bow, Blade. This movie
Yeah,
kicks
they do
ass.
some stuff like that. It's funny because in the
Over the
sequel they
top.
have something like that that happens where, like, somebody goes out in the sun, but they don't blow up. They just, it's like more romantic. So I guess if you're a bastard, you just
turn
blow
into
up.
ash and
Yeah.
float away.
Donald Logue as Quinn. He's kind of off the rails in this.
I did
man.
not like him in this movie. I thought he was lame, and, like, when he was at the end, he's like, "I'm gonna be naughty." I was like, "What the hell is this?" Like,
it's funny you would say that because this is like the exact same kind of acting as, like, the dude from fucking Steven Seagal film that plays, like, the first one we watched. He's like an out of
Above the
control
Law?
character.
yeah, I don't know, just something about him. I didn't find him at all threatening, and I thought his
Yeah, I don't think he was threatening at all. I think he was supposed to be like a character
silly.
that was like he was like used as, like, Blade would just ram him all the time and stuff. I thought he was an okay, like, juxtaposition against, like Deacon Frost character who's like, you don't know what he's gonna
More
do.
cool.
Yeah, and he's more serious and stuff, and he's like kind of the goofy friend and stuff like that. I like him just in general, like Donald Logue. I don't see him in as much stuff anymore.
I'm not sure what else I've seen him in.
But like one of the things they were saying in the commentary is when you remember this part where he was talking about how he was really funny and he was
cracking everyone
and
up.
he was running around naked and stuff, and I was like, what? It's kind of weird, but
I don't think they should have let him ad lib. I'm gonna be naughty. Like,
I thought that was pretty funny, but it was just so. It was like you could tell that was.
That?
It was very in character though. Like, I mean, I can't say that like his character was supposed to be serious. He was very like jokey. I'm fine with them having him be like that, but like the Vampire Council was like impotent. Like they didn't do shit in those. I thought it was cool when Blade grabs the train to like save both of them.
Yeah.
And it like dislocates his arm. I was like,
cool.
Dude, this is awesome. Like you said, this was like pre-Matrix, and this was like very cool.
Mm-hmm. I think I liked the action more in this movie because it wasn't as cartoonish / comic booky as Blade 2. But I mean, that was clearly his intention. I mean, he literally said, "I wanted to make."
I mean, it's a comic book movie, so and it's not
more of an action horror movie than the second one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the horror is more.
There's definitely some horrific stuff in Blade 2, no doubt.
I think it's better, like more in that one, but it's also like, in like the action, like in this one, it's like he goes up against people that aren't real threats, but in the sequel, it's like they're major threats. So it's like the actual fights are super powered. Stuff,
especially
it's a lot better than the stuff you see like in the Marvel movies now. Like I don't know. People can say whatever they want to say, I guess, but I thought that like there's definitely, you can tell when it's like, stuff's being used and they're like they've scanned his body and they're like but it's not like I've seen like way worse shit and stuff, and it's not really even that bad. I feel like they kind of put it together.
I hated that. I thought it was awful. Like, it always jumps out to me. Whenever I see cartoon characters jumping around, it like totally takes me out.
It's not, dude. Not even. I felt like that wasn't even close to being cartoony.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny because like you always talk about when they do that in the Matrix and how stupid it looks, and like this is just as bad as that, if not worse. In both these movies, like the digital doubles look like crap to me.
In the second one, I think they're fine. In this one, I feel like
they're better, but there's more of them in that.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, it's a product of its time too. So
yeah, I mean, it's still better than a lot of stuff I've seen, and it's also, I mean, it doesn't mean it's like perfect, but it's still like, I don't know, like they don't in at least for Blade's parts, like most of the stuff in that when he has that last fight, I feel it's very like when it's done and stuff, it's done in a very action movie-esque kind of feeling and stuff. Like he's not like jumping around and just flying like Superman or anything. So it's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of stuff, except for like some of it's, obviously it's not like, they're not just straight up being like, we're doing everything with wires and stuff, but like some of the stuff like cannot be done without using the effects. And I just thought that it was like, it worked fine with it. I mean, there's obviously, when I'm watching it, I wasn't like, yeah, this looks exactly like Wesley Snipes. I know he can fucking bend around and fucking flip back and shit like that.
30 flips in the air.
Yeah. But like, I've also seen action films that do that stuff with shit, and it's like, it's the same kind of thing where I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I was just talking recently about True Lies because I watched it again, and like, that's one of the best action movies ever made. But at the same time, Arnold's stunt double is so freaking obvious in every scene. It's like, what's worse? You know?
Right.
It was really bad. Like it really jumped out to me.
I think in this though, in the sequel it works though because like it's supposed to be like, like obviously, if two people were clashing in real life, like no one has superpowers, so it's obviously it's like people are trying to like, what the fuck would it look like? You know what I mean? So it's obviously it's fucking weird looking and stuff, but if two people could do this kind of shit, how the fuck would it look anyway? It's very, if you could pick up somebody by their feet and throw them in the air and fucking they would fly and then land on their feet, like, that would look fucking weird as shit in real life, even if it was, like, done with fucking wires. So it's not, it's like that uncanny valley. Like, it's unnatural because it's something that no one's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like when you see, like, an accident and someone's thrown, it doesn't look real. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, whoa. And I'm not like, this is, like, fucking perfect. I'm just saying it. Like, it looks, I don't think it's, like, cartoony. Like, it's not, like, fucking, this is the goofiest shit ever kind of thing. But I know what you mean. Like, I think you mean, like, cartoony as in it looks like it's unnatural.
Yeah.
And it scares me. I'm like, what can they do?
You just mentioned how, like, the villains weren't threatening.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice at the end, like, when Blade was going through all those henchmen, like, each one was waiting his turn patiently to get destroyed? It jumped out to me. I was cracking up.
He's like,
they never all just rush him at the same time, but that's like
that's kind of a
trope.
That's like an action movie thing, big time. Because it's like if they all rushed him at once, he'd be like destroyed. Or they do the thing where they all jump on him and he pushes them all off, like Matrix, and I'm like, what? Yeah, actually, I'm thinking about the Matrix when that happens. What in the second one, where all those Smiths jump on him,
cartoons.
And he like does that. Like, if he's that like powerful, why didn't he just destroy them all right away? Like,
I think if you ask that question in the Matrix, you're
you're
gonna be in trouble.
Yeah,
it's like you could say that about freaking almost everything.
I like the first one though. Oh yeah, speaking of, like, it was fucked up when that one dude dies in the sun when they pull his fangs out. That was like the most fucked up thing ever. I was like, Jesus.
Pretty strong stuff.
Christmas Goose has cancer in this. It's kind of distracting though, because he's coughing for like an hour in the background in a scene. I'm like, shut up!
Like they're trying to deliver dialogue
He's
here.
like,
Whistler, more like cougher.
Yeah, he's like, okay, it didn't sound like that. Sound like Beavis? Like what? He's like, I'd be like, oh. So Frost meets Blade, and they've got big trouble in Little China.
At this point, I'm like, Deacon Frost, more like Weekend Frost.
Yeah, this guy's a fucking wiener.
Yeah. He's just like such a little twerp, you know? Like,
yeah, he's kind of like, it's like Hulk Hogan versus Kurt Cobain or something. Yeah. It's like, okay, dude.
Or Richard Belzer.
He's like,
go to sleep.
He's like, Doogie. I also thought this was funny. Kris Kristofferson says, as Whistler says, get out of here to like the lady. He's like,
lady.
He's like, nice lady. By the time he says that, it's too fucking late. So like, he's like, come on, hold him off. Get out of here. Get out of here. And it's like, even if she had left right then, they still would have caught her. So it was like, okay, dude, like, also like Blade patting blood away from him for like an hour was like the funniest thing.
We talked about that.
Yeah, in the commentary where they're just like, he was like, you know, I guess there's, you know, stuff that he's like, there's stuff that I should have been doing besides this, but like they put the blood on his face, so it was like, you know,
yeah,
he was complaining. He was just like, the fucking makeup people didn't understand. Like, looks like he's giving him a sensual massage.
It's like he started doing that in the scene and was like, oh crap.
Yeah!
You could kind of tell.
Also, this guy goes, why am I hearing gunfire? I want him alive. I'm like, that's Blade shooting them. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I want him alive! I'm like, I thought, like, the whole thing with, like, his mom kind of, like, reappearing and stuff was, like, I forgot about that. I was like, oh, yeah. Like,
that was kind of cool.
But I didn't appreciate them doing some weird sexual shit with it. I was just like, I remember that when it happened, it triggered a fucking, like, flashback to when I first saw it back in the day, too, and being like, why? Because I remember watching it at first and being like, this part's really fucking weird. Like, why is this happening right now? But I did a little research here, because I didn't know, I thought Blade was just his name or whatever, because at one point his mom calls him Eric or whatever. And, like, I was like, okay, I gotta find out what Blade's fucking full name is, because I know about Blade. Like, I'm a fan of his, but I'm not a fan enough to be like, I'm gonna buy the comics, and but like, his name is Eric Cross Brooks. So, and like, he was born in London, England.
Really?
Yeah, on October 24th, 1929.
Lost that accent.
Yeah, they switched some stuff obviously because it's like when he was first introduced, it was like 1929 because of the 40s or whatever, 50s or something, and then of course when they made this movie, they had to be like 1940 or 60s or something. But like that was one thing that they did keep was that like Deacon Frost turned his mother or whatever, like he was in the original comics, but like she was giving birth like in a brothel because she needed help, I guess, and like they called a doctor, and the doctor that arrived was a vampire, Deacon Frost, and I was like, what? What are the odds of that? He's like, yeah. Like, come on. Like in this, it seems like it was planned because he talks like
what are the odds?
Deacon Frost turned his mother and stuff like that, and then she secretly like she went off with him and stuff, which is like, oh, okay, and like he doesn't age. Like vampires that are either turned or are pure blood don't age, but Blade does in the movies because he's like half vampire and half human is what they were saying. And like I just thought it was funny that like it was like, it was playing in the movie, like, Deacon Frost is like essentially his dad or whatever, and which I think they should have like explored that more a little bit. Honestly,
kind of an afterthought.
It's kind of cool, like an idea, but they really didn't explore it at all. It was just kind of like he was a bad guy, and you really don't even think about it till like now, like after we've seen the film, we're talking about it again. Like, oh yeah, like
it's like when Blofeld's like, "Oh yeah, I'm your brother."
Yeah, it's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, did anybody watch Star Wars? It's kind of a big deal. But like, yeah, this is the part you were talking about with Quinn, where he's just like going off the fucking rails here. He's like, found me a surfer boy with a nice ass, and I sucked him dry. You figured he'd turn, right? And then this is where they talk about how like they sometimes turn into zombies. And then, like, he was like, I'm gonna be a naughty vampire god. Yeah! And I was like, Jesus.
So just weird.
I also thought this was weird because I thought they needed all the vampire council, and one of the ladies just kills one of them, and then it's just never an issue. Yeah. They were like, line them up on the glyphs, and they do, and then she kills one of the dudes, and I'm like, wouldn't that just fuck over the whole thing? And then it didn't matter. It's like, okay.
When it gets into like the vampire lore and stuff,
yeah, this part was kind of boring because they didn't really do service to it as well as they should have. It was just kind of like, it was just weird because like they were like, don't waste time with the prophecy, but there was a fucking like ready-made old fucking sacrificial thing for that reason. So like, it had to exist, so it's not like this was like fake, you know what I mean? It'd be like if there was like, it's not, I don't know. It'd be like if there was evidence of something that was in like a religious text that was like everybody could go to, but they were like, it's fake. I'd be like, what? You know what I mean? It made no sense.
I don't know, like the trope of a prophecy and a ceremonial sacrifice has like been so done to death.
It's my sacrifice. What did you think when Blade drank the lady to orgasmic delight?
It was quite something.
You were like, no, I agree.
Ready for Hawaiian punch. But warm it up, please.
Warm it up. I'm like, give me warm V8. I thought this was a cool part when he kills Quinn, and before they fall to the ground, he like grabs the sunglasses back.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, it's on now.
He wastes no time. Like,
dude, he starts
the hell out of
reaming the shit out of like people. He like kicks a dude like 80 times for no reason other than it was cool. There was a weird like roundhouse whiff battle though.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
Did Wesley just want to like show off his kicks for a couple shots?
Yeah, it reminded me of that part in like what was it? In Turtles, where they're both like doing nunchuck shit or whatever.
It was kind of silly looking.
It was like, oh. Look at you. You're a little bitch. I was like, Jesus. Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Great line.
Yeah. So that pretty much ends the film, the first one, where he like destroys Deacon Frost and he becomes this nasty fucking blood.
Like Tumor Man.
Yeah, it was gross.
He turned him into like a red Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. that was awesome.
I was like, it's like, this is gross.
That was gross.
I guess one of the things, or do you have anything about that? I'm kind of getting into the special features and other notes, but for the first one, but I didn't know that Wesley Snipes was trying to get Black Panther made before this.
Yeah, I was interested.
And that like nothing happened with that, and he did Blade, but like to think that like he was trying to get that made, and then they came out with it, and it was like a huge hit and stuff like that, and like recently, but it was just weird that like all the way back then he was trying to do it, and I was like, well, what was going on? Like, what? Like Marvel had anything else better? Like, why were they saying no to that? Like, they're no. But anyway, it was just interesting that like he knew about that. They had this like,
they're like, comic book movies are too risky.
yeah,
Superman and Batman were huge failures.
yeah,
Like, come on.
Interesting, or not interesting, but like the blood bank idea, which like made no sense, where it was literally had like 2 people, and he's like, we're turning everyone into vampires, and I have enough blood for one day. I'm like, what?
They brought that idea back for Blade 3.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus,
I was surprised.
why?
Circling the drain.
But speaking of the original ending, you told me like you watched it and you were like, dude, you gotta watch the fucking alternate ending, and it was like, originally the ending was that like he turned into like a blood tornado and fucking Blade gets like swept up in the air, and it was like watching the unfinished CG was like hurting my fucking eyes.
I was like, I can't imagine that ever being good. Like,
but at least
what were
it would have
they
been
thinking?
polished looking. Like,
Yeah.
it was like test footage.
It was like
that looked like shit
on cinema,
right?
The CGI.
Yeah, it was like there were parts where like shit was keying out, and I was like, dude. But one of the guys was like, he's like, we never talk about sequels. We're just like concerned about the movie we're making now. And I was like, that's completely different from the Disney Marvel thing now, where like every film is
You announce your release calendar for the next 5 years.
tied into the next film. We talked about, we might not have talked about this, but I talked about it before we did before we started recording, about how like they, for the commentary for this first one, which they thankfully fixed for the second one, but they do like an edited together style, and I fucking hate that. Because I would rather just have a whole track from
You feel like you're missing something.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm pretty sure we were missing shit from whoever you wanted to hear from, whether it be Wesley Snipes or like Stephen Dorff or like the director, or you know, it's kind of just like, and it's also like, since there's so many people they put on the track, they have to have some random fucker say Wesley Snipes before he talks, and I'm like, why didn't you just have these all be separate, and you could have, like, I don't know. It's just, I
did appreciate, like, in most commentaries or, like, interviews and stuff, no one has a bad word to say about anyone, but, like, they talk about, like, the tensions that were on the set. I appreciated that. Like, they told honest stories. Like, it wasn't all fun and games.
Yeah, Snipes was talking about how, or a lot of people were, like, talking about how, like, the director was kind of, like, crazy a bit. But, like, nobody was, like, saying, like, fuck him. They were just, like Wesley Snipes was like, he learned. I was like, Jesus! He beat his ass.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jesus. Apparently Donald's, like, jaw became unhinged, and he was actually screaming, but no one could hear him, and I was like, Jesus! Like, the kind of stuff that I was just like, dude, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
The more I heard from Snipes in this and in the sequel commentary, I was just like, this guy gets it. Like, he was talking about how, like, he's like,
he's the man.
Doesn't worry about the delivery, because you can always do another take, but the intent behind the character is what matters. I was just like, yep. Steven and Dorff fucking butted heads on the first day. I thought that was, like you said, like, they don't they're not like, you know, I love everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, you know.
You could tell that day was probably super difficult for
Yeah.
Stephen Dorff. Like,
because he literally like was waiting forever, and then he finally got his chance to do his stuff, and then it was like,
Snipes was like, that's what you're doing?
yeah, he's like, do it again. Also,
Can
like,
you imagine how stressful that would be?
oh yeah, for sure. Your co-star, that's like your main, like the main guy, and your co-star, he's also the producer, so he's like watching you like a hawk. Because usually when you do something, you just be like, okay, I'm going to my trailer, but like he was like watching. He's like, I want to watch the dailies, and then it was like, you know, I'm sure he was like, kill me. I think my last note for this was like that originally Whistler was going to be the vampire at the end in Moscow they were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, so I guess they always had like the idea of bringing him back maybe in the first one, so maybe they did. So I guess that whole thing earlier I talked about was about, which is weird, okay, because like in the commentary for the sequel they said that like they didn't want to bring him back, so maybe they just forgot or something, or maybe that was somebody else's idea or something, because it wasn't Wesley Snipes that said that in the original like stuff. So maybe it was like one of the maybe the director or something was like, originally we were gonna have Whistler and stuff. I don't know, but there were enough issues with the director for the first one or something that like they got Del Toro for the sequel, and they make no bones about it in the second one on the commentary, at least. That
Oh,
they
really?
were like, because they didn't even say like after this happened or whatever. They were just like, yeah, we were trying to pitch Del Toro for the sequel, and I was just like, something must have happened big time that because definitely didn't return for the sequel.
Yeah.
I don't have anything bad to say about him. I don't really.
I do.
know
He
what
made
happened.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, I mean, as
Sucked.
a person though, I don't
yeah.
really know anything about him.
I don't either. He came up from visual effects, I learned. He was like a visual effects guy before he became a director. Blade was one of his first big shots. And then he got LXG.
I just wonder like what happened, because it had to have been between him and Wesley Snipes, and they were probably like, well, we're not getting rid of Wesley Snipes, so get the fuck out.
Yeah.
But I always wondered what that was, because I remember like even back in the day being like, yeah, there's like a completely different feel between the first and second films, and then being like, oh yeah, there's like completely different directors.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Should we get into Blade 2?
Blade does. Yeah, I agree. Let's do it. I'm like, I agree. Let's do it. So yeah, Blade 2. Did you see this one in theaters or no?
No, same
this was
story.
A DVD
Rented it
Yeah.
probably on a Friday night and watched it and didn't really think about it afterwards. Until now.
You just went straight to bed. You were like,
you
were like, what? Thigh splitter?
Like one of the big, I guess, cool surprises about this movie is like the monsters, the Reapers.
Yes. Yeah.
Like their design was like very.
This
No
movie
one had seen anything like that
yeah.
before.
This movie's got Del Toro fucking all
yeah.
over it, because if you've seen any films before or after his, it's like, you know, he's a monster maniac,
Especially vampires. Like he's obsessed with vampires.
and it's like in Hellboy, you know, it's like the main guy in this reminded me a lot of the Prince from Hellboy 2.
Same, totally.
And it's like,
and I have the same criticisms of that.
Yeah.
Like it sucked in Hellboy 2 and it sucked in this. But
I like the look. It's just
so
the
generic.
look, the taste.
But so I had read that Harry Knowles review, so I was primed to see it. I was like, this is going to be quite something.
I can't wait to see this fucking porno.
But then I read Roger Ebert's review, and he spoiled the Reapers, like what they did and like their look. And so I was very disappointed that like Ebert spoiled one of the cool surprises in this movie. Because when that dude's chin opens up, it was like, whoa.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, it's one reason why I never really read reviews. It's just like, you never know who's going to be a bastard and spoil the film.
It totally happens.
That's also like a big no-no to spoil something in a movie or a game or something. It's just like, what the fuck was he thinking?
Ebert did that quite a few times back in his day.
That's why I never read them.
You take your chances.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck you, Ebert, you idiot. Tell me the truth. Did you love it or hate it?
And we've talked about this before. I may have said it on the podcast, I'm not sure. But like, I
hate you.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
But I don't like many of his movies. Like, I don't know, just his, like, I don't know, something about it. I wish that he would become like an art director or like a production designer, because those parts of his movies are like always amazing. Like this movie looks great.
Yeah.
It's got cool monsters, but like I don't think he's that great at directing action, and like all the lore of like the villains and stuff. I was like so bored. I did not care at all. Like I don't know, it didn't quite work for me.
That's the kind of stuff that I like the most about it. Is like I like actual thought and stuff like put into that. Like
he definitely puts. A lot
I meant
of
like I like
into
the lore and stuff. Like in Hellboy, like all that stuff. I think Hellboy is refined though. Like with that, like Hellboy 2 with like the ideas for it and stuff like that. I just like that. I'd rather have him be directing a film than like someone that doesn't put any effort into it. Like he puts a ton of effort into like ideas and like this or that and stuff like that. So like
he writes like whole books of lore and like draws, like I was like, this is the ravings of a
madman. He's like Peter
so
Jackson
into it. Yeah.
And like no one, I think everybody would agree.
I totally respect that, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I just don't think the end product is that great. Like I was pretty bored throughout most of this movie.
Damn,
I hate to say.
I thought this was better than the first film.
I'm glad you liked it. I know that he's one of your boys.
Yeah, I think he's better than most directors out there, honestly.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, he's
I
really
won't
good.
Disagree.
I can't think of a single film that I've seen of his that I didn't like, but at the same time, like I haven't seen all his films at the moment. There are like things that like about this, that I didn't like, but they're not like I hated anything. It was just kind of like, there are definitely like lulls in the movie, kind of. With like once the like blood pack gets introduced, it's kind of like this is very of its time and unneeded.
Dude, the endless sewer scene, I was like, kill me. Like it went on for so long.
But their stuff was like not. I mean, like they could have got rid of everybody in there except for like Donnie Yen and Ron Perlman.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because
everybody
becomes like a side character in his own movie, which I didn't really
kind
appreciate.
of.
For a big part of this movie, he's like not a real central focus. I was like, okay.
But like
Ron Perlman totally steals this movie as usual.
Yeah.
He was great.
I thought it was weird that like I guess like an interesting thing, but like they kind of like skip straight to like the third film plot with this, where like they have like vampires being preyed on by other vampires. I felt like this was like an end game kind of situation, not because it's like after what happened with the first film, they brought Blade into the fold and were like, we need your help, Blade. And I was just like why is Nosferatu like congratulating him for killing vampires? Like, what? He's like, good job, we know you've done great work. And I'm like, what?
I know. And
I mean, I know he had ulterior motives, but it was just like it was so obvious in Blade, and then everybody saw right through it, like from the beginning. It was like him and Whistler were like 10 steps ahead, like until you don't really know that till the end, but it's like he knew that fucking he was full of shit. It's like, yeah, bring fucking bring him into your fucking lair, and he's gonna be like, yeah.
That was a weird thing to me because like on the commentary, which first let me say his solo commentary was delightful. It was awesome, dude, because he talked so much. Like he knows so much about vampire lore.
Yeah,
he probably spent half the time just talking about all this like stuff I knew nothing about. It was great. And then he told like he was hilarious and like told interesting stories. Like I loved the commentary.
Yeah.
But at the end he was talking about like he wanted the villain to at the end become the hero, and I was like, why? Like,
how does that make sense?
Like, and it doesn't in the movie. I couldn't understand what was going on.
I did feel like there was kind of some like sympathy for the character because he's used and stuff like that. It's kind of like what they did with Hellboy 2 with like the prince and the princess.
Yeah, it felt like the exact.
But
same
it's like
thing.
I mean that's why I like Del Toro, because he gets it that like monsters aren't the fucking he understands that monsters aren't the fucking issue. Like it's the fucking assholes.
And like, I love the fact that this
It's the assholes! It's like, wow, what insightfulness.
This is a great monster movie. Like, there's so much
Yeah.
monster action in this. Like, how could you not like that?
Yeah. I do agree with you. Like, I feel like the action in Hellboy, for the most part, works really well because it's more like Hellboy hits like a truck and shit.
Yeah,
and
you feel no impact at all in these fight
but
scenes.
it's like, in this, it's like, it kind of sucks because it's like, there are parts I like, but there's also parts where like this fight between him and like the masked people with the swords, I was like, this fucking sucks.
That sucked, dude. And then to make it worse, they had this huge fight with swords, like trying to kill each other, and they're like, we're here to deliver a message.
Yeah, I was like, why didn't you
say
that like right off the bat?
I think that's where the movie lost me, and I was like pissed off from that point on. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I've seen that shit in action films
yeah.
too. It's not comic book. It's like,
but it's like when I saw, what was it, Avengers Civil War or whatever, and they have this huge battle and like no one gets scratched at all. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, it's, I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was pretty crappy.
yeah.
But the vampire ninjas did look cool.
They were okay. I like the characters, not really their costumes, but I liked the idea of like it seems more epic. It seems like there's like, it's kind of like from Hellboy to Hellboy 2.
Mm-hmm.
But did you kind of notice that in like this film, like they essentially used the BPRD before it was in BPRD, like that whole look of that building when they go to it was like the same fucking building essentially. I was like, come on. It was like the same look.
Yeah, totally.
It was like the Men in Black BPRD building. I was like, because they filmed it in wherever it was.
Prague.
Yeah, Prague. And I was like, okay, dude.
Nice.
But, also, what'd you think about the intro for this being like Austin Powers? It like had Austin Powers groovy music as he was explaining shit. I was like, what is this?
That was like a product of his time.
I was just like,
cool.
huh? Also, the whole like shoehorning and Whistler was turned off screen. It was like, what?
I remember that bothering me back when I first saw this, and it bothered me again now. It's like,
it didn't bother me. It just didn't make any sense that like it was like there was no setup for it, and then they kind of just like did it.
By 15 minutes into this movie,
They wanted
he's
their
just
cake
totally
and
back.
eating it too.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
they did use that though to like make you think like, oh, is he actually with the vampire? I'm like, I've got 10 hours of Super Mario Brothers notes here to go through. You're just like, your eyes just get super wide. But like the whole thing of Whistler being turned and like them using that like, oh, is he good or bad? But like they already show that he's not a vampire because he survives till the next day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like how could he? Why would he be a vampire? He would not be a vampire, but then he would still think, oh, I'm gonna join with them even though they killed my fucking wife and son. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
They were reaching
But not
for
his daughter,
it.
because she comes back in
Oh,
33.
Oh, Jesus.
You're gonna love it, dude.
One thing I enjoyed seeing was Norman Reedus. I like him.
Me too.
I
don't know him. Do you like him? We're doomed to always say that now.
Oh my god! I was about to say, where did we get that from? I was like, oh wait.
I was like, there's no chance this guy's gonna double cross Blade. Was that a surprise to you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Nice.
because I hadn't seen it in forever, so I was like, what the fuck is this? I didn't remember a lot about this film, honestly, because I watched it and I was just like, I didn't remember like the blood pack, like the blood, whatever the fuck they're called, the blood pack or whatever. It's fucking so stupid. The more I talk about it, I was like, maybe the first one was better.
I think it definitely holds together as a movie better.
I think like things look like there's a lot of stuff in this film that look a lot better and like it's a lot more professional and stuff in this one.
The look of this movie is awesome because
Yeah.
he like, he wanted to make it very colorful and like, you know, fun to look at. And
it's
it really,
very like prototype Hellboy.
Yeah.
Like you can feel like I'm like the look, the taste, the touch. But like Snipes in this as Blade is having so much more fun. Like he almost hits his car, but he's like.
My favorite line is at one point he just calls someone sissy.
Yeah,
like the way he says
he
that,
does that to like Daryl Dixon or whatever, and I'm like, hey. The guy gets motorcycle tortured.
Yeah, motorcycle torture, definitely good.
Acro torture.
One thing I thought, like, there's something weird about Wesley Snipes in this movie, and I couldn't put my finger on it until Del Toro said that, like, in multiple scenes in this movie, it's not Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
It's his body double with, like, prosthetics on to make him look like
Wesley
Snipes.
Like, he's doing, like, some of the stuff they're doing, like, ADR later.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that either until, like, when I was listening to the commentary and Wesley Snipes with the writer were talking. He's like, was this you or, you know?
Like, no, that's not actually Wesley Snipes.
Like,
and I was like, whoa!
I was like, wait, what?
That's crazy.
Because like you said, there is something off about it, but I never thought that. It was never like,
I would never have noticed it unless they pointed it out.
They ruined it. No, it was, yeah.
But it's because he, one, had schedule problems, but he got super hurt on this movie.
Yeah, he like fucked his knee up at one point. Norman Reedus is watching Powerpuff Girls. That kind of becomes a reoccurring thing in this film, which was, I was like, okay, and like, apparently when I was listening to the commentary, they were originally supposed to get Speed Racer, but they couldn't get the rights to it. So New Line was like, oh, you can use this instead. It's our own thing. And so, because they always wanted to have him kind of like working on stuff and in the background be watching something like that's completely different from what he's doing, like cartoons, because he's, serious vampire stuff. So it's like, okay, understand. But yeah, my line, sword fight. I like the idea of like them having like this BPRD looking place, and then like with the master vampire, it's like his area is like a castle. Like they've recreated it. It kind of reminds me of like Gargoyles, the cartoon. Did you ever watch that show?
I never watched it.
And the top floor of the skyscraper is a recreation of like a castle.
That's cool.
I was like, dude, this is so cool. Having said that, like, I like the idea of them having this super old vampire, a guy that looks like Nosferatu, but they just didn't go like scary enough with it. And he was like, once again, like, I agree with you. It was kind of like, this is like another guy. This is not very threatening. He just
no, and I don't care about his story at all. Like,
it's like it could have been so cool, and like they could have been like, I don't know. It's like they had like that one show we watched that was like this super old vampire. It's like they could have had something like that, but like they just didn't put the time into it, which I was weirded out about because they put in a ton of time with other stuff. It's like he was almost just like he didn't even really need to be a vampire.
No, and they weren't even villains, really. They were just people, like characters.
Which is weird. It's like the last film, all of them were straight up bad guys. Yeah. And one of the first things they say is like, thank you, Blade, for killing Deacon Frost. And I was like, why? Like, I didn't understand why. Like, he was, like, Blade didn't say anything either. He was just kind of like, okay, like, what? Like,
I can't explain it.
Yeah, like, so was he, like, why he was like an issue? For what reason? Like, I'm going to turn, that whole, like, blood god thing, like, to me, it would have made more sense if they were going to do some kind of ritual for them just to be like, we're going to turn, because one of the most, I don't know if it's overplayed, but something that, like, would make more sense, or just in general, I think that they've done in vampire films, is trying to turn it into Eternal Night. Because, like, oh, then we'll have free reign and stuff like that. Why the fuck would you just be like, let's bring back a blood god? Like, okay, like, that'd be like, I'm bringing back a food god. Like, what? What is that? I don't get it. So, you're just human.
Because they could. Maybe.
Yeah, they should.
They should.
You're human. Barely. I'm a lawyer. I'm like, fucking Christ. Come on with this.
Kill me. Lawyer jokes in late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, lawyer jokes. Like, okay. Also, like,
next.
Back then, it's like, yeah, lawyers are scum, but it's like, the more I look at, like, the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, lawyers aren't really scum. They're, you know what I mean? Anyway. So, Ron Perlman as the racist Reinhardt. Do you blush? The fucking blade.
Yeah.
Which
his look,
yeah.
like, I could not believe that his chin strap went all connected in the back.
It was like...
It went all the way back.
It was like
to the back of his head.
this, too.
Yeah.
And I was like...
It was awesome.
What is this?
That's so weird. It's like, I think Mr. T might have done that, but, like, I've never seen that look before.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Like, it was something. It was cool. Well, why don't you do it then?
I'm like, okay, shave my head.
I was more concerned with this shit, where it was like...
It was so weird.
Like, what's going on?
But I totally forgot Donnie Yen was in this movie.
He's barely does
Yeah.
anything.
I probably didn't know who he was when I first saw this.
Yeah, but now it's like he sticks out like a sore thumb.
And he's
because
looking good too.
He's
got
also
like, the eyeliner going.
Yeah,
on.
and he's like dressed up. He's got like the samurai thing going on with double swords, and I'm like, of course he is. But
and I was just thinking about how stupid Rogue One is, where he's blind, but he uses the Force, so it totally doesn't matter at all, and they don't use it at all in the story.
I mean, those two characters were my favorite parts of the film.
I agree, but it's funny that Donnie.
But I also like the robot only because like what's his face voices him.
yeah, Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk.
Donnie Yen was in John Wick 4, and he also played a blind character, but they actually utilized that in the action, which I thought was
Isn't
really
Donnie
cool.
Yen Ip Man?
Yeah.
Nice. Shout out to Donnie Yen.
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, he's barely.
That was something they kind of talked about, where like Wesley Snipes wants to work with him more because he said he used him mainly a lot in this for choreography, but he wanted to like have him do more stuff. It's just the stuff he does didn't really fit with the Blade aesthetic of like doing like kung fu and stuff. So it's unfortunate. So what do you think about the super... I mean, it's cliche now, and maybe it was cliche then, but the slow-motion badass walking... I was like, come on!
Yeah.
It's like, was this directed by Dan? This whole film, it was like... Vampires must really like to rave, because there's another fucking rave in this film, and I was just like, okay, dude, like... You did it in the first one. Like, why are we doing another rave?
There was one shot that was so funny.
Dude, there was a guy in the background that looked like me or you, like a fucking total nerd.
Yeah, that's what I was
with
gonna
a
say.
fucking red shirt. He's like...
he's got like spiky hair.
Yeah.
He's like this skinny nerd. But the reason you notice him is because like there's only one spotlight in the whole room and it's shining only on him.
He's like,
woo! And it looks so stupid.
He's like the lamest
I was like,
fuck. Like, come on. The first one, it was like everybody looked hot.
Yeah.
They looked cool. They were like dressed in like this. It was like if I went to a rave like this, I'm like, like, okay, dude. Like,
I go to a rave wearing these. I'm
oh
like,
my god. You're like, you got the right one, baby. Oh. You're like, that's horsey sauce.
no, that's Arby's sauce.
It's like you're blind, not like you don't have any taste.
Smell blind.
Yeah, smell blind. Smell blind. Did you see there's a guy that kind of looked like Bruce Willis cutting a person's back up?
I didn't notice that he put like Bruno, but it looked like Bruno.
He was just
But that was gross.
He was like, okay.
Like, I love those little touches though, and they were handing out razor blades for people to put in their mouths and make out with. Like,
Yeah.
what a brilliant touch!
Yeah.
That was so disgusting.
Yep.
Like, amazing.
Yeah. It's just like the vampire, like the whole culture. I'm sure like Del Toro has a book like that thick that he was just like. Also, did you like the whole Krispy Kreme thing with Daryl in this or whatever? Apparently, this was supposed to be White Castle's, but White Castle was like, nope. So they just did Krispy Kreme. I was
Dude,
like,
why?
yeah,
Come on, White Castle, get hip.
yeah. Maybe they didn't want to be like, they're like, we don't want people to get the shits fucking watching this film. One of the what? One of your notes or something?
I just noticed that there's an actor in this movie. His name's Danny John. Sorry.
You're like,
Cut that part out.
Danny John. There you have it. Monster's head, like one of the Reapers or whatever, head gets knocked to the side, and I was like, when that first happened, I was like, dude, this is gross.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh. And then it's like back. I was just like, the monsters are like the Reapers or whatever are pretty gross because they're like like they call them like crack addicts essentially in this because like unlike vampires that like feed whenever they're hungry, they like it's like constant for them.
Gotta get a fix.
Yeah, and a vampire or human, they turn them into like reapers once, you know, they bite them or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's just like, damn.
That was so silly when you first see a group of the reapers and they get on all fours. And
Yeah,
I was like, come on.
they're like,
let's slow ourselves down 50% by getting on our arms.
also like for no reason, like regardless of what they were wearing before, they like transform into like homeless people. Like they all are wearing like homeless rags, and I'm like, what? Like the one guy it made sense, but everybody else it's like they instantly become homeless too, and I'm like, I don't get it. Daylight's coming, you're on your own, Blade. I'm like, well, considering the only people that killed anybody were like Ron Perlman and Norman Reedus, like nobody else did shit anyway, like the Blood Pack. So he was on his own anyway. He's just like, you're on your own. I'm like, well, you guys didn't do shit.
The dude had a huge machine gun, but he like didn't hit anyone.
Yeah. Well, he killed the fuck out of his like own people, but he didn't fucking. Also, like, well, they say that like the bullets, like the only thing that'll kill him is like sunlight, and even after learning that, people still shoot guns at him, and I'm like, this movie is like horror trope fucking 101. This is what'd you think about the part? This was total like Evil Dead Del Toro kind of stuff where it was like they fucking cut the one dude's head that like turned, like they cut it like a little bit, and fucking after he's like turned, his head is like still alive and it's like blinking, and I'm like,
that was awesome.
Dude, this is fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. It was gross.
Christmas Goose says, I ran into some Reaper action myself, and he's like, and I'm like, could they like have made this any more like you know, like it's so weird. They're trying to make him seem like he's like a double agent or something, but it's so like forced because the way he's acting is not how he would act as Whistler just in general. Like so he's like smiling and shit. It's like, hey, I almost got Blade killed. But then like once they know that's not the case, he turns back into Whistler at the end of the film, essentially. You know what I mean? Like when you find out the real traitor is someone else, it's like, okay. What did you think when you found out that the old vampire was playing them all? Were you like, who gives a fuck? Yeah. Like it wasn't obvious as fuck. Yeah. Like,
it's like Saturday morning cartoon shit.
Yeah. Blade saves the lady with his blood. I was like, it's like. I was just thinking the commentary. I didn't write this down. I guess I'll go ahead and talk about it now. But they kept making jokes that like the third one's gonna be where Blade gets laid. They're gonna start off and there's gonna be like a fucking bevy of bitches, and I was like, Jesus.
Quite a phrase.
Yeah, and I was just like, good lord. But they were like making all kinds of like comments like that, like joking around, like. Yeah, the commentary was like you.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
You got to listen to the solo one. You'll love it
with Harrison Ford, the solo one. So like Ron Perlman gets like fucking blown up, like a bomb blows up in his face, and he turns into like Two-Face at one point in this film. I was like, okay.
I wanted to talk about his death because he goes out like the biggest punk I've ever seen in this movie. Like, he just stands there and lets Blade slice him in half and doesn't even try to fight back. He's like, who? Well, they watch the sword go up in the air and he does nothing.
That's the same thing that happens to Norman Reedus.
Did he get like hypnotized? Like, what happened?
I think Norman Reedus got hypnotized too because the same thing happens to him. He gets like stun locked or something. Like his controller like turned off. Because like with Norman Reedus, he like you find out that he's actually a bad guy, and then like Norman Reedus like because like okay, so the whole film, like at the beginning of the film, Blade puts a bomb on the back of fucking Ron Perlman's head, and he's like, anytime you fuck with me, I'll kill you. And he's like, okay. Well, it doesn't say okay. He's like, okay.
Okay.
But, like, that's the whole threat. And then eventually at the end, he's like, you're fucked. And he, like, hits it and, like, nothing happens. And he takes it off and he gives it to, like, Norman Reedus. And he's like, you know, B, it was never a bomb, you idiot. Fucking, it was a dud. Gotcha. And he said, it wasn't a dud. So, first of all, I guess there was, like, a fake trigger.
I don't know.
But, like, the thing that, like, I never got was, like, well, multiple things.
How it became active somehow?
Well, he blows it up, and Norman Reedus knows it's going to blow up, and he just goes, shit, and just lets himself be killed instead of throwing it.
Yeah.
He's like, shit. And, like, also that was super stupid on Blade's part. Why didn't he wait till Norman Reedus went over by Ron Perlman and then blow it up? Instead, he just, like, he's like, I gotta kill fucking Norman Reedus, the least threatening person in this fucking room right now. There's fucking, like, Nosferatu, there's fucking Ron Perlman, and then and I have no fucking weapons, so I'm gonna blow up the human in the scene. But, like, yeah, like you were saying, he gets hypnotized too, and doesn't do shit, he just gets stun locked, because Blade just killed, like, 40 dudes in a row. He, like, is doing all this fucking out of control martial arts. He's like killing dudes one by one. It's fucking ridiculous. And when it comes to the fight with Ron Perlman, he just cuts him in half, and it's like, and he fucking folds, and I'm like, what?
It was so silly.
He was like,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, oh. They're like, finish him. He's like,
Yeah. Babality.
But I had no clue that Norman Reedus was a bad guy in this, because I guess I just forgot, you know.
It is a good, like, reveal. It's
Yeah.
just, like, Norman Reedus always plays such skeezy characters, it's like, you can't trust him.
I think, I mean, I've seen him in, like, Walking Dead, and he's not a bad guy in that, so.
He is heroic.
I think he's, like, and he's not, like, he's a good guy in Boondock Saints.
Is he, though?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's the question
he
of
doesn't
that
turn on anybody.
Yeah.
I can't think of a film where he does. This is the only film.
Blade 2?
Yeah. You're like, he's always a guy that turns on people in Blade 2.
Your words.
That's true. What other films is he, like, in that you've seen where he was, like...
I don't know.
A
I just feel
turncoat?
like he...
You just don't trust him, I guess?
don't trust him.
With no prerequisite. You instantly don't trust him. I like how Blade knew he was a fucking fembot all along.
Yeah.
I was like...
Like, wait a minute.
He's like, we knew all along, sadly. I thought this part was funny. The Nosferatu guy is like, he'll never enter here, and then 5 seconds later, he just walks right through the front door.
Yep.
I was like, what is this shit?
Why?
Also, that fight I talked about earlier where he fights like 50 dudes, the fight starts with, listen all you motherfuckers, and I was like, what?
Good stuff.
He also suplexes a dude to death before he kills Ron Perlman, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
This was the beginning of the wrestling being introduced into the Blade films, and that's one thing that he talks about. He's just like, I liked it. I thought it was kind of different and stuff. Some people thought it was corny and stuff, but I mean, if you were to do that to somebody and you had the strength of Blade, they would be fucking dead anyway, so. I liked how the main vampire was trying to flee like Dr. Evil at the end.
Get me out of here.
Yeah, he was like, nah, nah, nah. And then randomly I found out in the commentary why, but at the time I didn't. I was like, what? But the old vampire had green blood, but I guess that was their way of getting around the censors. Yeah. And then Novak at the end kills himself. Blade stabs him, and he's like, it's over. And I was like, okay. Could have just done that in the beginning, and the movie would have been over, I guess. But yeah, they share a tender moment, and she ashes away into the sun.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah. That was kind of sad a little bit, but it was also kind of like, I think that was something they were talking about in the commentary too, where they were like, they were kind of wanting to maybe build that up a little bit more, but they just didn't, do it or whatever, like the relationship.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of people, like, they're like, yeah, we watched this in the theater. There were women in the theater. They're like, ooh. You know, it's like, okay.
Don't know if I believe that, dog.
I mean, there are people that go out and watch fucking the Minions movie and find that entertaining. So if you don't believe that, but then they go to London, England for the end, where fucking Blade is waiting in a strip booth to kill a random guy from the movie. It's like, why was he's just waiting there? What if the guy never went in there? Was he just waiting forever? Like,
Yeah.
It's like,
How did he know the exact booth?
yeah, he's like, you didn't think I forgot about you? And it's like,
Blade doesn't leave.
he's
Blue
like,
Moons.
blah. He like fucking shoves a thumb down his or a thumb. So, yeah, I'm gonna get on. Unless you have any other notes, I'm gonna get onto some of the commentary here that was funny.
No, my last note was I paused at 1 hour and 21 because I thought the movie was almost over, and I saw there was 40 minutes left, and I was like, "Kill me."
There you have it.
I felt it necessary to say that.
You're like, I hate films. So some of the commentary here was pretty funny. This first one though, I was like, oh god, how's this gonna go? Because the writer asked Wesley Snipes what he thought about Del Toro, and he's like, I like Del Toro once he got through the door. I was like, Jesus!
Oh, jeez.
And the guy was like,
Damn, dude, coming in hot right out the gate.
But then he was like, throughout the rest of the movie, he was kissing his ass the whole time. So I don't know if it was just like a fucking joke that they had between them or something. I don't know. It was just weird. I was like, what the fuck? They talked about Kristofferson being cool. Kris said, never sleep with a woman who is crazier than you are. But he broke that rule many times. I was like... said, if we do a third one, we need to do some major stuff with the car. I'm like, okay. Because I guess they were talking about how they were kind of disappointed that they didn't have as much.
Oh, there is a pretty good car chase in the third one.
He asked Wesley Snipes, like, what... He's like, do you do, like, martial arts? Or, like, you know, like, and he's just like, yeah, kick a butt of itis or whatever. And he was like, because I guess the writer didn't know that Wesley Snipes had been training since he was, like, 13.
Oh, yeah, he's like a master.
But, like, he's like Shotokan, Shaolin, Goju, Capoeira, Taekwondo, Karate, Kung Fu, Ping Shot, Surat, Kempu, Jiu-Jitsu, Boxing, Savate. It's like all this stuff he was listing off that he does, wow. And he's just like, yeah, you know, work it all into, like, the movies. Like, certain things, like, he doesn't do as Blade because, like, he was like, it didn't make sense for me to do, like, something, like, as Blade, like Kung Fu or something, but, like, something, you know. Mm-hmm. They were joking about, like, you know, replacing the director and getting Del Toro, and he's like, yeah, they were joking about getting rid of me for the sequel, you know, Morgan Freeman or Denzel to replace me. And they were like, the writer was like, bullshit. Like
can you try to picture Morgan Freeman?
He was like, Blade. Do like fucking 40 years in the future. They watched a bunch of Lone Wolf and Cub to get ready, like Del Toro and the writer. I was like, nice. Oh, cool. Shout out to one of our earlier films. So we did. So I didn't bring this up, but somebody actually asked that line to Wesley Snipes, do you blush in real life? Like, and that's why I got put into this film, because I guess him and the writer were talking, just, you know, shooting the shit, and he was like, yeah, some can you believe you're not, you know, this guy said this to me or whatever, and he was like, dude, we got to put that in the film.
That's the same thing with ice skating uphill in the first movie.
Something that actually happened to Wesley Snipes in real life got put into the film. Kris, when they were filming, I guess the scene with all the Reapers, like in the beginning with like Daryl in the car and it's like raining and stuff, Kristofferson was like, what the fuck are we doing out here? I'm freezing my nuts off out here. Jesus! And everybody was like, what the fuck? I didn't catch this the first time, but apparently in the film, Norman Reedus as Scud wears like a shirt from the BPRD, which is a shout out to the Hellboy films that Del Toro was about to start. I just randomly put, I'd love to see a Blade Hellboy crossover. I don't know why I wrote that, because that wasn't a fucking note from the thing. So I guess you probably knew that Michael Jackson was originally going to be in this film.
I didn't know that until I heard the story. Yeah. That's crazy. Blade would have been super weird.
Blade was going to open the door and Michael Jackson was going to be there as a vampire pimp. And I was like, okay. And apparently he wanted to do it, but the scheduling conflict couldn't make it happen. And then Wesley Snipes did like 30 seconds of Michael Jackson impressions.
Dude, awesome.
And I was like, he's like, Michael's my man. He's like, oh, hey. And I was like, Jesus.
That's great.
They were joking about Blade getting laid in this, and he's like, he'd do it if the body hadn't turned to dust. I was like, good lord.
Whoa.
Wesley didn't understand Powerpuff Girls. He kept calling them Powder Puff Girls, too. Like the cartoon, he was just like, what's this? I don't understand why we keep showing this. I was like... Also, there's a part in the film where they play a song called, like, Gotta Get 'Em Up, or whatever. And Wesley Snipes was making fun of it. He was just like, what is this dog shit or whatever? And he was like, he's like, if somebody was playing that, you know, before they went to like a thing, or if they were going for like a, you know, he's like, I'll catch up with you guys later once you get back.
Dude.
Like they were lame or whatever.
Wesley Snipes, I bet he's a fun hang.
Yeah. So when they throw the fucking sword up in the air, they did that first at one point, and it went through a fucking dude's leg.
What?
Yeah. And then when they tried it again, fucking it cut Wesley Snipes' fucking hand. I was like, why are we throwing swords
Real
in here?
swords.
Yeah.
Use a fake one.
Talked about the Del Toro laughing about the old vampire originally having a wig looking like Michael Bolton. The last note I have here is from the I watched the deleted scenes with commentary. And my last note is Del Toro talking about how like someone they hired that was like a Czech person named Lenny was in charge of like layering the autopsy like organs and stuff, and he was getting very aroused, and it weirded everyone out.
What?
So the guy was like the dude that they hired was like turned on by the fucking organs, and he's like, it brought everyone's libido down by 10 points. And I was like, Jesus. So they had some fucking freak on the set. It was all about like
serial killer.
Yeah, organs or something. He was like getting aroused. I was like, hey,
good God.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Blade and Blade 2. Do you have anything to say about Blade Trinity before we? Because you watched it, and I didn't get around to it, and
it's not great. It's got some, like I said, there's a really cool action scene at the beginning. It's like a big car chase. It's pretty cool. The cast has some cool people in it. Parker Posey plays like one of the main villains, which I always like her. She was good in it.
I like Ryan Reynolds in his.
Yeah, it's one of the movies that kind of unleashed him, and he's still doing the same character 20 years later. He's basically Deadpool, Van Wilder. Like, he always plays the same character. Yeah. But yeah, the action's just okay. Yeah. It's 2 hours long, way too long again. It's kind of boring. Yeah. But I think you should watch it. I think you'd enjoy it.
You're like, the movie sucks. I think
it doesn't suck at all. Wesley Snipes is, of course, great in it. Yeah. Again, so
I think the Trinity was essentially the one that killed off.
I don't know why it has such a bad reputation, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
I've never heard anybody say anything good about it personally, so that's why I think it's been avoided. Like I've never actually watched it. So but now that I have it, I'll watch it.
I don't know that I'd recommend it to just anyone off the street, but I think you liking this character and like the universe and stuff will enjoy it. There's enough in it for people to like. Plus, got Triple H in it. How many movies can say that?
Too many.
And he's not good.
Yeah. Any movie I've seen him in, he's horrible. He would probably be better now, but he was green as goose.
Yeah, totally. You can tell. But
I think his big thing in the Trinity was that that was the one thing I always remember is like him being in the third film. He had like gold fangs, which I thought was weird. I was like, okay. So that's pretty much Blade, I guess, in a nutshell. Like I said, there was a Blade TV series, but I've never seen it. So, yeah.
Cool.
I think that's pretty much it for Blade.
We did it.
Yes, we did. Thanks for coming on this journey.
Nice. Should we give our final ratings?
Yes, hopefully you didn't think these movies really bit. They bit.
I enjoyed them.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part, I did too. There are definitely things we talked about that was kind of like a little, frustrating or...
Not perfect movies by
right.
any means, but I think Guillermo del Toro's, I can't say his name, he summed it up best at the end of his commentary. He was like, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and now go finish your 6-pack and your pizza, which is totally appropriate for this movie. Yeah. And I was like, that sounds about right.
That's every movie.
Disposable entertainment, but entertaining enough.
Yeah.
Or is it? I'm going to go 7.95 for Blade. And 6.95 for Blade 2.
Nice.
How about you?
So you hated it? No. No,
didn't quite make the mark for me.
7.95 is pretty much like your standard score.
Yeah, if I'm entertained by it, I'm not going to go lower than that.
Yeah. Probably do like the first one's probably like I don't know. It's hard because like if I was rating this just on like Wesley Snipes, I'd be like 9.95,
Mm-hmm.
no issues. Kristofferson 9.95 as well. But like
from now on, we have to do ratings for every single
actor,
person in the cast, and every crew member.
Crew member. I'm like Boom Mike 0.95. This guy sucked.
Mike was in the shot.
Yeah. First one, probably like an 8.95, and the sequel's probably like a 7.95.
Sounds about right.
They're good films. Just yeah, I'll have to watch the third one eventually one day.
Yeah,
and be like, oh, okay.
Any Guillermo del Toro commentary is a 9.95. Yeah. His commentaries are the best.
Yeah,
he's so smart and funny. Like he knows so much about movies and movie making.
It's also weird to listen to a commentary that was done before the next film. Like both of them were that way. Like they Blade 1's commentary before the second film. The second film's before the third. Is there? I wonder if there's a commentary in the third film.
There is.
With Wesley Snipes.
I'm not sure. I didn't look into it.
He's like, fuck this. I'm out. I'm like, I should do another Blade week with Blade Trinity in the TV show. And we just eat shit. I eat poison. Oh, Jesus. I'm like, well, Swiss Family Robinson. Here we go. Cool, man.
All right.
Blade.
We did it.
It's true.
So on to next week. We're going to do Run Lola Run. With Time Tracks as a weird watch. Time Week! Have you seen Run Lola Run?
I don't even know what that is.
It was kind of a small phenomenon in the late 90s. Kind of like Blade. But I think it'll be interesting to talk about.
What do you think's was more influential, Run Lola Run or Blade? Because you've seen both.
Well, I mean, Run Lola Run's like a European art house movie. Blade is a comic book movie, so I think we know who won that battle.
Is Wesley Snipes in Run Lola Run?
He's Lola.
He's like, cool.
No, but I haven't seen it. I've seen that one before, but
you're like, I like it, but I haven't seen it.
I want to rewatch it, and I like to get your thoughts on it because that could be interesting.
I'm like, this fucking movie rules.
I won't say how it's linked to Time Tracks, but just time is involved.
Okay.
So I don't.
Time passes as you watch the film. I'm like,
spoiler.
I'm like, good lord. Yeah. Okay. Cool, man.
Cool.
This is gonna be a week.
A timely week.
Yeah, a week to remember.
A time to forget.
Jesus. Gloria's like giving me the gargoyle stare. Our eyes are like...
This might have been our longest episode. I think we're closing in on 2 hours.
Who knows? I'll have to cut it all out. Cool. Well, that's pretty much it for this week, guys. Join us next week if you have the time.
Bye.
For Time Tracks and Run Roll Run. Bye. Mr. Blade. All those vampires don't seem so far away. Now I'm so glad that you're here to slay. Oh, I believe in Mr. Blade. Suddenly, Blade is half man, half vampire, you see. Deacon's frost shadow just flew over me. Oh, Mr. Blade, kill suddenly. Why he talks so low, I don't know, he wouldn't say. Whistler's hair is long, that's my song for Mr. Blade. Oh man. Oh man! Dude, I don't even know. I'm high.
Just sitting here in silence like we normally do in between podcasts.
The fuck? Dude, why? I don't get this shit. Shit! Yeah, because when you fucking get a phone call, you look right at your phone. Well, I guess you would, right? I'm like...
You're like, look, Mom, no look.
Yeah, I'm like...
No look answer.
I'm like, 360 no scope. Answer the call. Mm-hmm. Yes, Bruno has returned. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to cut you off. That's cool and everything. I gotta go.
Dude, Mike, did you hear the... I'm holding up both my hands somehow. Mike, did you hear the news? They finally announced...
What's wrong?
Oh, why am I talking like this? Mike, man, I got some amazing news. They just announced, finally, Austin Powers 4. Live and let shag. Your dreams finally come true, man. But that's not it. Did you hear who was cast as the main villain? Octowussy. The main villain is Octowussy. Guess who's playing him? Tig! Can you believe it?
Okay, now I can't escape. Whoop my ass while you want. I dare you. 9.95. Emotion is feeling so high. 9.95. In overdrive. Put your body in overdrive. 9.95.